What is your all-time favorite Celtics season?
Oh.
Station 11 was one of 1 million scripts written about a pandemic during the pandemic.
Station 11. Let me see what I was going to write here. I was going to say something very similar to Ryan, so I'll just say Station 11 was in between Station 10 and Station 12.
Station 11 rhymes with seventh heaven. Seventh heaven? Seventh heaven.
Almost.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Fallingtower's Watch the First podcast in which we watch the first episode of a series so that you don't have to. You know what's going to have to happen is we're going to have to get better. This was a slow start, everybody. We are guaranteed to do better. But I will also guarantee that there were 1 million scripts written about the pandemic during the pandemic. That one, and Michael's can be fact-checked too. 10 and 12, solid. With us, as always, Michael Kenyon Rosenberg, co-captain.
That's me.
Also joining us from a backyard is writer, producer, director, actor, Pistons fan, Neil Patrick Stevens.
I put the green in Patrick.
Ah, you're a friend.
Very
you're
nice.
A fan of Celtic people, huh?
I'm big fan.
My name is Ryan T. Husk. I was going to wear a Star Trek shirt today made by Walking Art, made by Melissa. It was a big Picard head. But then Neil yelled at me and was like, why don't you wear a Warriors jersey since I'm wearing a Celtic? You're going to make me go all alone with myself. I'm like, I didn't make you. You're the one who chose to. And then I ended up wearing a cool Jason Richardson shirt from the back in the day. Anyway, so
I was disappointed by both of them.
Because he's a Knicks fan.
I am not a basketball fan. I'm a fan of wearing ties now.
But I went by your colors. That's a Knicks fan. Anyway, everybody, today, as you may have guessed, if you're still with us, that we are reviewing Station 11, Episode 1, entitled Wheel of Fire. Now, this one was suggested to us by quite a few of you. David Gregory, Melissa Longo, Mohammed Noor, and I believe Angie Vasquez, and possibly several others, because this is one that keeps coming up. So this is one of those things where if you bully us, we will give in, everybody. That's the moral of the story. If you want us to review a show, in the comments below, type in WTF Station 11, which we're doing right now, or WTF Cheers, or WTF Wings. Whatever you want, we'll do it, maybe.
The key is to get enough of your friends to put it in also, so that we're like, oh man, we're like being bombarded by all these different people who want us to watch a show. All right. It also doesn't hurt that the show is relatively new. So
yeah. Let's get into it, everybody. Neil Patrick Stevens is, he feels like he made a mistake joining us today, but it's going to get better. We're going to have some fun. You see, we'll talk about basketball. We'll talk about baseball.
No,
It's going to be
I'm
great.
just going to leave then. I'll let you guys do this one by yourselves.
Don't tempt me, Frodo. Okay, here we go. Let's start the show off with our favorite game, which is predictions. Michael Kenyon Rosenberg and I have known each other for so long. How long have you known each other? We've known each other for so long that Michael used to actually come with me to Warriors games sometimes. That's a fact.
That's true. That's a true
fact.
That
is a fact. He was the best. He was the best at psyching out the other team when they were shooting free throws.
Yeah.
He can be very loud and obnoxious.
I can boo very loud.
And he can get the entire section to join. He would yell at them. He'd be like, come on, join in. We got to boo this guy. He was that guy. So don't act like you don't.
I don't know. Honestly, I cared less about the basketball and more just about being loud.
And having fun. Yeah, with your pals and being loud. Anyway, we're reviewing Station 11. Michael Kenyon and Rosenberg have known each other forever. We can basically predict if we're going to like something, if we're not. Neil can guess pretty well. He's known us for a solid 10 years, possibly. So here come our predictions. Oh, sorry. Mike likes to call it
predicaments. Thank you, Ryan, because we put ourselves in a predicament by making our predictions.
I like that.
Patent pending.
Don't encourage him. Anyway,
A lot of people like it. Ryan pretends he doesn't like it, but he actually loves it.
I actually love everything, is what I pretend, but I dislike everything,
Yeah.
is what is real. Okay,
Yeah, that's
Michael,
correct. That's a fact, actually, too.
I predict that. Oh, yes, I remember now. I predict that you like this show from the very beginning when they were doing Shakespeare. You like Shakespeare. You are well versed in Shakespeare. You're a big, fat, juicy Shakespeare nerd. Okay. You're an English major. You're all about that kind of stuff. And I feel like you were gripped from the moment they started doing Shakespeare. You were into it. And I think it stayed with you. I think you enjoyed the whole show. Neil, I think that this show is actually right up your alley. I think that you enjoy smartly written shows that are willing to kind of take their time and have a lot of tension and stress and slight horror. I think that this is the kind of show that's right up your alley. And I think if you've never seen it before or heard of it, I think you enjoyed it.
Well, I will guess now about my predicaments. And it's not much of a predicament because Ryan kind of showed his hand a little bit when he was predicting what Neil thought when he said this was smartly written. And I do know that Ryan is a fan of things that are smartly written. I do know that about him. He's a fan of cleverness and smartly written things.
Smart aleck.
And so I think that, yes, definitely smart alecky. But he's also a big fan of poorly written puns that he makes himself. But Neil, I do think he liked the show mostly because of the cinematic quality about it.
We're trying to peg you, Neil. Well, trying to have you pegged. Neil,
consider yourself pegged.
What do you predict?
I'm gonna say that I'm gonna go out on the ledge here and say you both enjoyed this. I think as Ryan said, smartly written. He's a smarty pants over there, likes to think he is, and people like that kind of show. And it is cinematic, as Mike said, and so I'm gonna predict that both of you enjoyed it quite a bit. That's my prediction.
So right now, I'll predict that the people who suggested this show are all
Also
very
liked
happy that we all predicted that we will all like it.
Yeah. And I'm feeling very comfortable with my prediction on Neil because the way he was describing his predictions to us verified that he liked the show. Although one of you may or may not have made a mistake here. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Everybody at home, make your predictions. Do you think I liked it? Do you think Michael liked it? Do you think Neil, Patrick, Stevens the fourth enjoyed it? Let us know in the comments section below or in the live chat. And while you're typing in your predicaments, Michael Kenyon Rosenberg will buy you a little bit of time and tell us what this show is even about. That's for you, Neil.
Post-apocalyptic saga spanning. Should I start over? Excuse me.
Please. What I should have said was for Neil is a boat. He says a boat. What is this show actually about, Michael? What is it?
A post-apocalyptic saga spanning multiple timelines, telling the stories of survivors of a devastating flu as they attempt to rebuild and reimagine the world anew while holding on to the best of what's been lost. In this episode, after renowned actor Arthur Leander tragically collapses on stage, Jeevan Chowdhury and young Kirsten Raymond have a chance meeting and soon face an important decision that could save their lives.
Wow. See you guys. See.
Well,
right, Neil, you say a boat, right?
Now I'm in my head about it. Yeah. We're close. Boston is close to Canada, so we do share some similarities in our. But I don't think it's as drastic as Ryan's saying. But what do I know about it?
Okay. All right. See, everybody, we told you it was going to get better. You didn't believe, but now you know. All
I'm
right.
still waiting. Okay.
So now it's time for the second best game of all time. It's when we compare and contrast what we expected before we watched this show with what we actually got. In a segment we like to call
Expectations. See, we all like to call it expectations. What we expected and what we got, we marry them together into expectations.
I still don't like it.
We love it.
All right. So, Michael, before you watch this first episode of Station 11 entitled, I forgot what it was entitled. Let me check.
Wheel of Fire.
Yes, Wheel of Fire. That reminds me of Blades of Steel. Ching! Remember that?
Great game.
Yeah, it's the best game. You throw
You
off
can
your gloves.
fight.
You
You
fight. Yeah.
You can have the fight. Yeah.
So good.
What have I gotten myself
Hockey,
into?
Hockey, yes.
Why am I on a show with two sports fans?
You a big Bruins fan, right, Neil?
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say
Shouldn't we save this for the interview portion?
Sorry. Anyway, we'll stick to Pat's talk. Yes, please. Michael, what did you expect before you watched this first episode of Blades of Steel?
One of the people who suggested this show was Angie Vasquez, who you might know, a little piece of trivia, is my wife. And so she has watched this first episode, and then she watched the rest of the episodes. I did not watch it with her. And so she's been dying to get me to watch it. So she was very excited when I said that I would watch it with her. So I did know kind of what the show is about. So that's what I expected.
Okay. You expected to know what the show was about.
Yeah. Well, I knew what
Very
the show was
cryptic.
about. So I expected to see the show that I knew what it was about.
Cryptic. Here we go. The Mystery Man. I want to watch you. Neil,
if you've seen the show, then you know what it's about. And my wife saw the show, told me what it was about. So we're going into it. I knew what it was about.
Neil, what did you expect?
I had no idea what it was about. As Ryan would say. I've gotten texts of like, have you seen Station 11? Have you seen Station 11? I'm like, no. And I'll put it on the to-do list, but I never watched it. So I had no idea. Station 11, it could be some kind of like military TV show, military installation. It could be fantastical. It could be, like the Harry Potter, what is it, Station 9 3/4, or could be something like that. It could have been like a rom-com, hey, Station 11, it's where we met, or whatever. So
could have been science fiction, like Space Station 11.
Right, exactly. Space Station 11.
Yeah.
So it could have gone in a lot of different directions.
Or Space Station 9 in deep space.
Right. Although there is, well, I won't get into that yet, but yeah. So I had no idea. All
right. Well, like Neil, I too knew nothing about this. Michael said, hey, what about Station 11 when we were talking about the next shows? And I was like, Station 11. And he said, I think people have suggested that. And I'm like, yeah, it looks familiar. I feel like I remember seeing it in live chats and in comments. Everybody at home, please leave your suggestions in the comments below. Live chat is cool, but comment is better because that stays there permanently. We can always see that. And please let us know where we can watch it, like HBO or Disney Plus or whatever. Makes it easier on us. So please do that.
Paramount Plus, Netflix,
Paramount Plus,
Hulu.
baby. This was a Paramount production, by the way. First thing it said, Paramount Studios. Interesting. So I didn't know anything about it. However, the people that suggested it, like David Gregory, Melissa Longo, and Mohammed Noor, we know are like giant Star Trek fans. I believe Angie's a pretty medium to good. She likes some sci-fi and some Star Trek. But those other guys,
she loves sci-fi. She doesn't hate Star Trek now.
Yeah, mediums. I know the other three are big, Star Trek nerds that are always, following along with the seventh rule and all these fun things. So I figured it's got to be a sci-fi thing, and it's probably something that these, sci-fi nerds love. Just kidding. We love you guys. So I just felt like it was probably a sci-fi thing that Star Trek fans like. That's all I knew. But Michael, that's what we expected. What do we actually get?
I have a question though first. Would we classify like a pandemic movie as science fiction?
I feel like we got to get into that a little later. I feel like this is a big discussion piece.
Well, I mean, that's what I got is like a show about a global pandemic that kind of destroys the world, which is what I expected because my wife told me about it. And she also told me that that it takes that you see, I mean, and in the show too, you see the past when the pandemic started, and then you see these glimpses of the future where everything's overgrown. And then in the future, and in the end of the show, the future of the show, by the end of the first episode, we actually cut to the future where we see Kirsten behind Ryan as a grown woman.
Mm-hmm.
And
Cool.
Neil.
Is that her? That's her. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the same character.
So
I
Neil,
just have Jeevan behind me.
Neil, what did you actually get?
Yeah, I was quite surprised by this show because I thought I was, it starts with a pandemic, and I go, oh, here we go, another one of these, and but it was very, very well done. I'm not supposed to talk about that part.
No, you go right
Thank
ahead.
you. Now's the time.
Okay, so high quality, cinematic, interesting characters, and then I was like, then there was the book and everything, and I was like, well, by the end of it, I realized that, oh, this is just, it's not a pandemic show. There seems to be quite a lot going on here. Some science fiction, perhaps some fantastical elements, maybe some fantasy. So it was definitely, at the end of it, it was quite a surprise to me because I thought it was going to be one thing, but once Bob Dylan started jamming
I
on the
knew you were going to mention Bob. Everybody at home, Neil is a big Bob Dylan fan. I wrote that in my notes for you.
I didn't even know that, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm a fan.
That's a great song.
It's a great song.
Don't think twice. All right.
I was like, oh, this is just this setup, and I was kind of like, all right, thank God, because I don't want to watch a whole show about.
Right. We just went through that.
Going through it, and and hopefully, maybe it's over. But you need a little time. You need a little space before you can go back into that world. I feel like so. It seems like that's not really what it's about. So that I was quite surprised by the end of it.
Meaty. Well, I'll tell you what I actually got.
Okay.
And let me preface this by saying, first of all, everybody, I'm not a big fan. I got a prejudice against boring shit. Okay. And so, y'all, I can see everybody at home going like, oh, let's get Ryan. Do Station 11. Oh, we're snicker. We're going to get him. We're going to make him spend 55 minutes. Snicker. You do it too. Make him watch Station 11. Okay. It was, not terribly boring, but the other thing is that, I think it's a bad idea to do pandemic movies and pandemic series. Look, we all know in 2020, everybody thought oh man, I just got like the smartest idea in the world. I'm going to write a script about a pandemic. Oh, you guys, oh my God, a million people did that. Here's the problem with it. Not just that everybody's doing it, but there's a real problem inherent within this, is that we all just lived in a pandemic. So we will be able to fact check in real time everything that you've written in your script. We just lived in a pandemic. We will know if you wrote something like, hey, this guy goes in to store up on groceries and all the grocery stores are totally empty. We're going to be like, excuse me, That's not how people act. I know, because I just lived through a pandemic. That is wrong. Anyway, so I got something that was that I think that some people would consider smartly written, and I liked the characters. I thought the little girl was a great actress, and we can talk about that more, because I know Neil's had to deal with kid actors. I know it can be a stressful thing, and God bless her for being good. That's what I got. Kind of a mixed bag there.
The one thing I'll say, though, is it seems like the pandemic just started.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, at the beginning of the pandemic, do you know how to act during a pandemic? Because there were some moments, like Ryan said, like there was a moment where the nurse, she's got the mask on, she's talking with
I
the
know
mask.
that was another thing. Yeah.
She takes it off to go.
Not just that. She goes and she talks to the kids with the mask on. She takes off the mask to walk through all the halls of sickos and all this. She's just walking through. I was like, okay, what's going on?
That is not proper mask etiquette. However, if it's at the very, maybe these people never, went through COVID like we did. So at the beginning, did we know? Didn't we think at the beginning that you don't need a mask unless you're sick or whatever? So I'm willing, as Mike said, I'm willing to give them a break.
I think doctors knew because they use masks already.
Yeah. Well, it seems obvious now, but people were confused back, when it first started, there was all this confusion.
What do you guys have to say about the great toilet paper debacle of 2020, when everybody runs into the stores, buys everything, especially toilet paper? Yet on this show, you guys go, he's the only person in the entire city of Chicago that thinks, I better store up. There's a big pandemic happening, epidemic, whatever it was going to be. And we're like, dude, I literally just lived through a pandemic. I know that people freak out. They don't not freak out. Michael?
But at the beginning of the pandemic, though, I don't think people were bulk buying toilet paper.
This was the beginning. It was.
No, but I'm saying I don't think they were. Right when it first started, because I can remember I was doing Toastmasters, and even Toastmasters issued a notice saying, don't shake hands anymore, just bump elbows or bow to each other or stuff like that. But there was still toilet paper on the shelves at that time. But this is everyone's just barely hearing about this stuff right now. So it's definitely not our life. It's not COVID. It's some different kind of flu. And I think that this is based on a book or something, or maybe it's based on the comic book that's in this show or something. I don't know what it is exactly, but it took people a while. Once they realized, they're going to lock everything down, that's when they went and bulk bought everything.
I remember at the very beginning of the pandemic, my dad called and he's like, you got to get toilet paper. I'm like, what?
He was the one that did it. He started this whole thing.
He goes, I seen this in the 70s during the oil crisis. Everyone got toilet paper. You need to get, we're going to run out of toilet. I'm like, Dad, come on. Like people aren't going to be pooping more. Why do we need,
it's weird.
Why do we need to stock up on toilet paper? But sure enough, he was right. And I missed it. I missed
the weird flex.
So I had no toilet paper because
you had to buy socks.
You gotta make do. You gotta be inventive. So
use socks and wash your toilet paper socks.
Anyway, so back to the show. Boy, there were All
right, here, curious of more stuff Ryan's gonna nitpick. Let's hear it.
No, I was just gonna say, it was good acting. I liked the characters. There were some moments that I thought would have been better had they gone in a different direction. I thought it would have, when the dude first gets informed from his sister and he kind of has his panic attack and he starts to realize the gravity of the situation. It's not sinking in gradually. It drops on him right then and there. He knows the end of the world is here. He gets it. I thought it would have been great if he just grabbed the kid. Because that would have kind of worked with him panicking. He's like, I got to save this kid. I can't leave her, whatever. If he just grabbed the kid and the kid's maybe struggling, kicking and screaming, and it creates more of a sense of there's more drama, there's more danger. Some people might be like, why is that kid dragging there, or being dragged by that guy? And it gives us something more to work with. Now I understand why they didn't do it. And that also worked, but, because then it makes it to where, she decides not to come with him, but he tricks her into doing it. It ends up being the same thing, which is she was unwilling overall, and he kind of forces her to do it, which gets you to the same point that I wanted, because he tricked her. And I thought that moment was amazingly acted by that girl.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, great. We got to watch a kid act, but close up. And this girl, we're watching her tiny little micro reactions as she's thinking and sinking in and realizing. A plus to her though. So, kind of worked out that way.
Also the character of the kid though, she's a smarter kid than the average kid. So even though she's just 8, she's not an idiot. She knows that he was making that up. And so, but it would give her an excuse though to go. I kind of got the feeling that she was walking away reluctantly.
Yeah. And that was conveyed in her acting, right?
Yeah, right. Exactly. Because she didn't say that. Yeah, I thought she was an amazing actor.
Mm-hmm.
I was kind of sad when I realized that that's probably it for this character, right? Unless they do flashbacks. I was kind of like, oh, well, the kid. Like, I was really, enjoying watching her as an actress, and now at the end.
I'm sure we're gonna be seeing the present day and the future mixing back and forth throughout the whole series, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
You're going to see plenty of her.
Speaking of that, though, what I really liked about this show is all like the flash forwards. Like they stop on a scene, for instance, the scene when the subway stops, right? And then all of a sudden it flashes to an image of the future, or it opens up with an image of this theater that they're seeing in Shakespeare in. They show the playbill of King Lear on the floor. You got all these pigs rooting around. It's all overgrown, and then it flashes to the present day or
yep.
Past.
I love that
day,
too. Very
present,
effective.
Past, present.
Mm-hmm.
But then there were also like all those shots were just beautiful too, and there were some beautiful like aerial shots. For instance, when the guy who's playing Lear is dying, and there's all the snow, the play snow coming down, and then it's like an overhead shot, and it's kind of coming up, and it was just, there were some just beautiful cinematic shots that I know that Neil loved. Neil, tell us more about them.
And real quick, I noticed that they had all their extras wearing browns and grays in that. And that was clearly a choice to not have any color, just keep it dreary.
Very, very desaturated look, desaturated. The lighting, the look, which then I think is going to be contrasted with this future world that seems to be very green and very saturated and very colorful. So they were clearly trying to create a contrast between these two times.
What do you think they're trying to say with that?
They're trying to say that right now life sucks, and when some magic thing happens to destroy 95% of life on Earth, or 99 or whatever it is, that humans can live in harmony with one another and be happy and beautiful and cheerful with nature.
That's interesting, because usually it would be the opposite, that the dystopian world would be the one that's desaturated and colorless, and then the present world would be the colorful one. But here it seems to be based on this background, which looks pretty colorful and saturated. They're doing the opposite. So maybe you're right, Ryan. Maybe there's a comment of like, I don't know, there's something about this new world that's in some ways better than our old world.
Our cold society where people love to argue about politics and
or anything. But this is the
people love
dawning
to
of the
argue
age
about
of
anything.
Aquarius.
Yes, it is.
So
this episode got really deep.
Can I say a couple things that I think made this not a good first episode, not a good pilot? Not bad. I want, look, I'm just playing the voice of the other guy, the devil's advocate, because the two of you are just fawning over the show, as I knew you would. But I'll tell you, and I didn't think it was bad. Okay. But here's the thing. I couldn't help but compare it to, say, the first episode of The Walking Dead, which is an excellent first episode, a near perfect pilot episode, right? Why? Well, because we know
WTF, The Walking Dead.
I haven't done The Walking
yeah.
Dead.
We did the new one, like the World Beyond.
Okay. We did that one with
That's what I said. We did that one.
Yeah, with Time Main. So, okay, here's why. Because, or the first episode of Lost, for example, okay? In those first episodes, let's say the first episode of The Walking Dead, we know what the motivation of the main character is, okay? Main character is primarily trying to find his family. There's a thing, there's a mystery he's trying to do. You know, he's trying to find his family. He's trying to save it. He's motivated. And secondarily, he's trying to kind of find out what the hell happened overall, right? Plus, we know what the bad guys are. We know what the conflict is. There are zombies. When that first episode ends, nobody needs to tell us anything. We know what the show's about. We know what the show's about. There's this guy with zombies everywhere who's going to go find his family. Zombies are going to attack. He's going to do whatever he takes. Whatever, we get it. We know what the entire show is about after that first episode. This first episode doesn't have any of that. We don't know if there are any bad guys. We don't know if there's any conflict or any problems. We don't know what these guys don't really have any motivation or any missions. They're going to a lake. I mean, whatever.
Well, to play devil's advocate to the devil's advocate, I guess angel's advocate, I would say that the conflict, the bad guy is the pandemic, the flu.
Yeah, but as far as we know, that's already passed.
Man versus nature.
It's already passed.
Well, what about the comic thing? Because I understand what you're saying, Ryan, and I think it's probably a slightly different kind of show where it's maybe going to be a slower burn than The Walking Dead, but there are some pins, so to speak, up in the air that are going to get knocked down. So clearly, this comic. I think the main guy is like, that person ruined my life. Right? He says like
it wasn't that bad. Come on.
He's got the comic and he says he's going to this guy ruined my life. And
the comic book. I didn't know what you were talking about.
The comic book, the Station 11.
No, so I thought you were talking about like a comedic character or something like that. I was like, I don't really see any. I mean, Jeevan had some funny moments, but
yeah, I thought he was great too.
When he was texting and sorry, go ahead, Neil.
Yeah, I mean, so I think that if that aspect wasn't part of it, I probably wouldn't have been interested, because I was kind of like, it really subverted my expectations with the comic, and like I'm like, what's going on with the comic? With the it's talking about monsters, and like, how is the comic connected to the main guy, and how is that going to, like, it definitely, the end of it really kind of provoked my imagination of what it could be. Like, I don't know what it is, as Ryan said. That's not like, it's not clear what the conflicts are and what's going on, but I'm it's I think it's giving you enough to be interested in like finding out what those things are, but you're not going to know them at the end of the first episode.
It's not a flashy network TV show that Ryan's looking for. It's a slower burn HBO show that
well,
I did
push
look it
back
up
on that. That's not necessarily
is
what I'm looking for. It's just not a very strong first episode. I have a feeling it's going to be a good show overall, but it's not a strong pilot. I don't think it's a good.
I looked it up, and it is
episode.
based on a novel of the same name.
That's good.
That was published in 2014.
Mm-hmm.
Ahead of its time.
Mm-hmm. So that probably means that the network chose that. They said, hey, we need a good pandemic show. Here's one. Cool. So that probably does add credence to the thought that it's going to be a good series. I have no doubt that it'll be a good series, and that it's probably one that can have like a long run, because it seems like they're just scratching the surface on what this whole thing is about. But as far as a first episode is concerned, it's okay. it didn't, I feel like, and this is what I was going to say before I knew that it was a book series. And usually this is the case when it's a pre-existing franchise. It's usually a much slower burn. It's a patient thing because everybody, the people already know where it's going. It already has kind of a fan base. But the ones that don't, they need to hook you in that first episode. And this show did not feel the need to hook us in the first episode. They're like, oh, it'll be fine. Just wait till the third season. It'll really pick up. You watch.
Hook you. My wife was hooked right away, and she like immediately started watching the rest of the series. I mean, she didn't like binge it or anything, but she watched it like every day for a while.
I thought they only had a few episodes.
Right? It said, I know it's a limited series. Is this
10 episodes? That's it. That's all there is. Yeah.
So there are.
Oh,
This is it. This is only the one series season thing.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So that
Interesting.
I like that. You can get through it, and then you're done, and you can go on with your life.
It's like watching a 10-hour movie.
Right. And maybe that's another reason why it's slower. It's because it's if it's a long movie, you got a lot of setup on the the beginning to to get to the rest. So often the first episode is just set up.
I was pretty pleased though that it ended with like 8 minutes of credits to go. So that was pretty sweet. However, I did suspect there may be stuff after the credits, and I was right in that there was like a scene that happened during the credits, and then after that there was like this season on Station 11, and so it kind of gave like
I missed the scene. I didn't see the scene.
Yeah, and I don't even remember what it was about, to be perfectly honest. I forgot. But I kind of like did a quick little cursory look. I was like, boy, this is sure ending early, and this is not a Marvel show, so there's probably something more. And I was right. I found like a little thing. There was like a scene. What was it? I don't know. Who cares? It was like a scene, and then there was like this season on. It's just like after.
No, I know they usually do this season on things at the end of HBO shows, but
anyway,
it wasn't it wasn't when we see it's in the future and she's older and they're doing
that's just at the very end of the episode.
Okay, you're talking about after that there was more stuff.
There was one little scene.
So one thing that kind of confused me at first, but then it made sense, is like when they flash to like this astronaut in like a space station or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, what the heck happened? How did they get there from that? I was like, is there somebody stuck on a space station, like a Last Man on Earth or something like that? Yeah, WTF Last Man on Earth. But then it's like, it just turned out to just be the comic book. So it was just her imagination while she was reading the comic book. So I thought that was pretty cool and clever.
Oh, I did not pick up on that.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that
you would have for sure.
Bad guy. I thought that was the antagonist.
Yeah, because they cut to her reading the comic book, and in the comic book you see a picture of that guy was in the space station.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool. He could be there. I don't know. There's something weird going on with that comic book.
Definitely, yeah.
Something weird going on, and that I think is what kind of hooked me. Was if it didn't have the comic book, I might not have been as interested. But the comic raised a lot of questions.
Is the comic book evil?
The comic book is what caused it. By the way, everybody, if a giant airplane crashes right next to you, you flinch. There's no way 3 people would not flinch. Okay, there's only one person in the history of the world that has ever not flinched when an airplane explodes, and that was John Malkovich's character in Con Air. Everybody else, all those goons and thugs, they all jumped and flinched, and he was cool. No,
this is your first airplane crash. Come on.
Yeah. They're like watching it. I mean, if you see an airplane, first of all, you see an airplane go by, you're not just gonna go, whoa. You're gonna be like, whoa, shit, and it crashes. We're all gonna react. Not even the 8-year-old girl reacts. Come on, like you guys. So I was like,
Ryan has no suspension of disbelief ever.
They
saw it crash. They saw it was going to crash. I mean, they were just in shock. Number one, they just found out that the world's going to end. Number two, their suspicions are confirmed by a plane crashing. And it seems like this disease hits people pretty quick too. I mean, that one guy, the actor, he starts coughing a little bit, and then next thing you know, he's dead.
All right. So if that's the
Okay.
case, if so,
All
so
right.
if it hits you that quickly, wouldn't you be like covering up like a little bit? Like, wouldn't you be afraid of like face to
God, Neil,
face?
you nitpick so much.
That was one part where I was kind of like, because I was like, how bad is this flu? Because like he's stocking up and he's getting ready, but he's not really seems to be that worried about like catching it from other people, unless they're clearly like sneezing and coughing. But otherwise,
But
he's just kind of like,
but
"All
at
right."
first, he just thought that the actor was having a heart attack. He didn't really know about this flu thing yet.
No, he's at
And
like the supermarket. He's talking to shooting the shit.
sure
with
he
the
was at the
guy,
supermarket. Yeah.
Yeah,
and
when
then
his sister says, go straight to whatever's place. There's things everywhere. Stay away from everybody. He's like, all right, let me go walk around. Let me go on the train. Let me go to the groceries. All this stuff. I was like, what?
He was on the train
rule.
when he found out, though.
Oh, that's true. And he got off. That's true.
Wouldn't you start? I remember like the first few days of the pandemic when people didn't have masks, like, but they were kind of like a lot of people were like, I rode the bus, which probably was a bad idea back then.
Neil.
Like, people would be like, walking around like this, afraid of, get, and this seems 1,000 times worse than COVID. So I don't know if I was in his position, and it's like, it gets you that quick that you're going to crash a plane. You get so sick, you crash. I would be worried about, getting it from somebody. I don't know.
Yeah. Kind of like when he says, when the guy's coughing in his car and he opens the door, and he's like, don't open the door. But it opened. And then when he slams it, I'm like, that just fanned it up to your face when you did that. When the guy opens the door and you close it, you should have just backed away. But yeah, all these little things, that didn't really kill it too much for me. That was just kind of silly little things. I will say that there were some moments that I thought were beautiful.
Okay.
And one that made me laugh out loud, as the French say, is when he has to call up to his brother's room. He's like, hey, I got this guy here, whatever, who says he's whatever. And then Jeevan says, hey, Frank. And then the little girl goes, hi, Uncle Frank. I'm like, this little genius. I freaking love this. Like, she right away just plays along. She's like, hi, Uncle Frank. I thought that was funny. Made me laugh. It's really good. That was good writing, I thought. Good acting.
It's like, this is my niece. This is his niece. Our niece. I was like,
yeah, our niece.
your kid or your niece. Like, it's me.
Also, when the store clerk goes home was a nice touch. We kind of expected that to come, but when we see him, he's just going home. That was a very nice touch. That was funny. I thought they had a lot of nice, subtle touches like that were really good.
Good character. Good, well developed, written characters. Yeah, it seems like it's a really well thought out show. And I'm sure that the book was successful if they're basing off the book. But yeah, really, really strong.
You know what I thought would have been a moment that I thought they were going to do and they didn't, was when he had the Yoo-hoos, and it was this very beautiful moment of he had 2 chocolate Yoo-hoos and a strawberry one. And right after we heard the story, I thought it would have been really nice, and I expect them to have 3 chocolate Yoo-hoos and a strawberry, and for him to take a moment and stop and put one of the chocolate Yoo-hoos back, knowing and acknowledging that his sister is going to die. Like this realization moment where he's thinking, okay, I need this, and he just kind of has this moment where, and I thought they were going to do that and they didn't, and I was like, that would have been real, a nice moment there. And there was nothing like that for people like me that want more of everything always.
Well, here's something interesting I just read. The novel was well received by critics, with the understated nature of the author's writing receiving particular praise.
See, Neil?
If her writing is understated, then that tells you a little bit something about why the show is a little bit of a slow burn.
Yep.
I like understated. Yeah. So hey, I have a question. The sister, what is the sister like? How did the sister get the information?
She's a doctor.
She's a doctor.
Or the sister was in the hospital.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The one who was coughing outside of her.
All over people and stuff. Yeah. Yeah, she's very irresponsible.
Yeah. It didn't seem like it was end of the world for her necessarily.
Yeah, she was just chilling.
I don't know. I thought everybody in the hospital was. I mean, they have to like. It's their job to like put on a brave face for patients, and like they know
Exactly.
they probably know they're going to die anyway. They were like
And
all calling their family and like,
you know the work hazards. You know the possibility
right.
of work hazard, and it was a nice touch when she said, "It's quiet here now." You know, we know what that means. It means it smells like a lot of evacuated bowels. It's quiet.
Yeah, and then they walk outside and it was anything but quiet.
Anyway, I don't know. Did you guys have any favorite moments of this show? I didn't mean to poop on it that hard. I pointed out some great stuff. I pointed out my favorite moments. You guys have any favorite moments?
And the Bob Dylan montage was that was probably one of my favorites. I was like thinking, the producer part of me was like, how much did that cost to get that song? I really wanted this song because the producer's like, all right, like this is what you want, right? Like this is going to cost 10% of our budget or whatever.
HBO, man, they got the money.
Yeah, they got some.
I've heard
cash.
of them.
Yeah, that was a cool moment.
One thing I liked in the show overall was the use of sound, not just music, but like the actual sound editing and sound design. So one moment in particular is when Jeevan's getting the call from his sister. He starts having his panic attack, and like the sound of the subway just gradually comes up, and that's kind of overtaking any other sounds that are happening, like him breathing or anything like that. It's just like the rumbling of the subway started slowly coming up, and then later, like when they were leaving the hospital, it was just the cacophony of everybody calling their loved ones to say goodbye or say, hey, go stock up on toilet paper. Neil.
Good point. And as you mentioned before, I loved
toilet paper in there. I just had like whiskey and food, and that was a
big old jug of whiskey. Yeah,
toilet paper. Where's?
I thought maybe it was like on the bottom.
The whiskey's antibacterial.
Yeah. One thing I noticed is when they were pulling all the shopping carts, they had all sorts of stuff on the bottom. So maybe that was like toilet paper, tissue paper, Kleenex.
Yeah.
I just wanted to jump in and say also that I like that opening scene. I thought that was great because at the very beginning, it lets you go, okay, awesome. I know where this is going. And I found myself going, thank God for that opening scene. If they didn't have that opening scene about 20 minutes in, I'd be like, dude, why are you guys doing this to me? But at least I knew that where this is going, what's happening. All right, hang in there, Ryan. Something cool is going to happen when one of these episodes, But speaking of something cool, it's time once again to talk about basketball. Neil Patrick Stevens, what is your all-time favorite Celtics season?
Oh, well, I mean, that's pretty easy. I mean,
anything is possible.
Yeah, I mean I was too young to enjoy the Celtics run in the 80s, despite my Larry Bird T-shirt. I would watch basketball as a kid, but Larry Bird would always be, he'd be laid down on the side of the court on his back. That's how I remember Larry Bird, because he was kind of older then.
Yeah.
So it was a rough time, those post Larry Bird years.
Yeah.
So 2007. That was
those
one of
few seasons that they didn't win championships. Boy. Anyway, but
the whole 90s, the whole decade.
Yeah, that was a good decade. Now, let's talk about you a little bit right now. Michael's a little bit more interested in that.
I'm cool talking. We got the playoffs coming up, man. So I just want to go on there.
They're happening right now.
I don't think our fans are interested in hearing about basketball.
I'm going to go on the record. You heard it here first. Celtics, if we get Robert Williams, Time Lord, back, we're going to win it all. All right. I'm on the record. Go ahead. I got nothing to talk about other than that. I'm locked in the playoffs, but go ahead.
Well, you are a writer, producer, director. You've worn a lot of hats. You're a filmmaker. you have had to direct kids in the past. Can you tell us some of the pitfalls and or joys and or things to, plan for when directing kids?
Sure. I would say, don't. There's a lot of like, I can't work with kids. I can't work with like you can, and it can totally work. I mean, we've seen like this show. We've seen there was a fantastic kid actor, and I've worked with kids who've been great. So
WTF Stranger Things.
yeah, I mean, kids, and if you find like talented kids, they can really, really make your movie. It's like finding a talented cat or a dog. I would say more so a cat. If you can find like an amazing cat,
especially one that talks.
If the cat can do anything besides like just run out of frame, it can do any kind of acting. It just immediately, I'm amazed when I see a cat like do anything in a movie. I'm like, oh my god, this is like real life. Like this is real life. It's almost like the cat doesn't even see that there's a set going on. So it's the same with kids and cats. Like, they add so much if you can find good ones. I think one thing you got to look out for is kids who it's acting is almost like it's a natural thing, and it's almost like kids can get out of their can get in their heads with like training, and say a kid's got a lot of acting training that can make their performances feel more staged, because all actors, I mean, you start taking classes and then you're kind of faking it, and it can feel fake, and it takes a long time to get it to the point where
Ryan,
it feels real. But when you're a kid, it's real, and some kids just naturally they just have it. Like the kid who worked on our movie, The Monster.
Face Your Fears.
There's no kids in.
Oh, you're right. The Monster. Sorry. That's the other one
that I know of. Yeah. He like some kids just they just naturally have that understanding, and I would say really cast a large net and wait till you find one that really
be patient,
really brings that. Yeah, don't just settle for the first one or whatever. And you're probably gonna have to be patient because a lot of some kids are further along than others, and you might have to audition a lot of kids, but hey, it works out in the end if you can find the right one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sorry, it was The Monster.
Monster.
When he auditioned, it was a pretty clear choice, right? You're pretty sold on like, okay, cool, we got the hardest part taken care of, we can actually make this film.
Yeah, I think I turned to you and I was like that's the kid, like that's and that was like the hardest part is finding, because picking the wrong kid could torpedo your whole project. So you got to really find the right one. And then he was also like, I don't know if he was kind of like showing off a little bit, but he's like, oh yeah, I didn't prepare, I just got the sides 5 minutes ago. It was kind of like I was like, all right, is he showing off a little bit?
Didn't he say something like, I could cry if you want, or something like that? He was like, how do you want me to do? You want me to do it again with crying? We're like, calm down, kid. You already got it. Okay. I've all the things I've written for like features and stuff have kids, so I haven't shied away from, except for Face Your Fears, the one I mentioned.
Basically, well, yeah, I mean, like my bigger projects I'm trying to get going, like which is even more pressure if you get a feature and you got kids. That's kind of scary, but I'm confident, you can find the right one. You just gotta be patient until you feel that they got it.
I think shooting with kids too, they can only shoot like so many hours of a day or something like that. Isn't there some kind of restriction?
All kinds of rules with that.
Yeah, it's that's tough. That's why I like the Olsen twins. They could double up their hours by switching them out when one would finish, the other.
Or if one of them's fussy, you just use the other one. That's what they do with cats. Like there are two grudge cats in Star Trek Discovery. Everybody knows, right? They're two grudge cats. And so
What?
you just switch them in and out. But very informative. Everybody at home, you can click on Neil's goodies in the description box below, and you can ask him questions and advice on how to direct kids, how to pick the right one, how to write them out of your script if you're like, boy, I can't find a good kid actor. All that kind of stuff.
We make this kid a cat and still tell the story we want to tell, or vice versa.
Even better. All right. So everybody at home knows it is now time for the bottom line, aka the Terrible Twos. Neil Patrick Stevens is joining us here for the Terrible Twos, aka the bottom line. He's super excited.
Bottom line.
Bottom line, is this where I give a rating?
You just seem like you're chilling. So here it comes. It's the final
I don't
two
know the
questions of
format
the
as well
show.
as you guys.
It's the final two questions, the most important questions. Everything else was just cannon fodder. It was all just, who cares?
Celtics talk. Okay.
No, that was cool. Okay. Question number 1. Michael Kenyon Rosenberg. Watch Neil's reaction here. On a scale of 1 to 10, what would you give this first episode of Station 11? Spelled out 11, not the numbers.
Right. So anybody that suggested the show and said Station 11, you're wrong. But I think most of them wrote it out. Yeah, I like the show. It's like we talked about the little girl actor was great. Jeevan was great. I think all the acting was really good, really well done. Yep. And the writing, understated though it was, I thought was good as well. My favorite part though was when they would stick on a scene and then flash to the future where everything's all overgrown. That was just when I think they did it like 2 times besides the opening scene. And those were just my favorite. And then some of the very cinematic shots were very good. I thought the show was very well done. So I give it an 8.5.
Whoa. Interesting. Yep. Neil Patrick Stevens, on a scale of 1 to 10, what would you give this first episode of Station 11?
I would give it a solid 9. I know my rankings are probably a little bit inflated, and you're like, all right, he's saying 9, he really means like 6 or 7 or whatever. But I thought it was really well done. And the fact that it's a limited series, I mean, I might actually even
wait, easy, Tiger Woods.
That's the second question.
I didn't answer that sentence. I'll leave that hanging.
Boy, oh boy.
Man.
What a tease, everybody.
9 out of 10. Really, yeah, just a strong production. Just really good writing, good acting. Production quality was good. I'm a slow burn kind of guy. I like that deep slow burn. So I was feeling it on this one.
See,
I don't like everything spelled out for me after the first episode. I like to. It's like a jumbled puzzle, and I like to still be placing the pieces, still figuring out where all the pieces fit, so to speak. So I feel like there's a lot of puzzle pieces that are still kind of jumbled, and I'm curious how they all fit together.
Mm-hmm. See, I know my Neil Patrick Stevenses. I knew this was up your alley, and I knew Michael would fall in love starting at King Lear. I felt very confident. I personally did not think it was like a puzzle, because a puzzle needs way more pieces than this. I felt like it didn't give me very many pieces at all, and that's okay. It just followed basically the story of 2 people. That's what it did for me. For as much as I pooped on it, I think I pooped on it because of the things that I mentioned, that when you're trying to take on something like this, there are a few landmines that you might step on, and they kind of did. But the acting was great. The characters were very likable. I was very happy with the acting and the characters. The small touches, cool. I'm giving it a 6.3. I was going to give it a 6, but I have a feeling that the series itself is a good series. I feel like the series on the whole will be good. So I'm bumping it up 3 points because of that. So I'm giving it a 6.3. Everybody at home, snicker. But here's question number 2. Here's the big one. For the purposes of this podcast, we all had to watch the first episode of Station 11. But now that the podcast is over and we're free to move about the internet, Michael Kenyon Rosenberg, would you watch the second episode of your own volition and not just because you have to?
I love Shakespeare. Not a surprise to Ryan. Now that Ryan's outed me as a huge Shakespeare fan.
And gloated more than once.
Surprise that to anybody. I love Shakespeare, and actually I do know a little bit something about the show because my wife has told me that Kirsten joins a band of roving Shakespeare actors. They go from town to town or encampment to encampment to perform Shakespeare for people.
Spoiler alert.
Spoilers, yeah. So I mean, I don't know if it's a huge spoiler. It's just that's just what happens. I'm sure you find. I mean, they even said like when she's like sitting there reading the comic book, she's like, "Oh, performance! We're going to perform."
Right.
Right.
So it's not. I don't think it's a huge spoiler. The acting was great. The cinematic shots were fantastic. But this show is not for me, so I would not watch the second.
Wow. Why is it not for you?
It's just. I mean, maybe it's just the first episode, but it's just too grim for me. I'm not really into grim stuff. I'm more of a comedy guy. I like to laugh, and there were some comedic moments in this show, but it was just too grim and dramatic, and that's not up my alley.
Interesting. Now, quite the dichotomy going from somebody that says he doesn't like grim stuff to Neil Patrick Stevens,
the Grim Reaper,
loves it. He eats it up.
Be my scythe.
I think.
Yeah. I mean, you've seen my movies. They're pretty grim.
Pretty grim.
Pretty grim. I mean, I'm not like. I feel like I have an optimistic outlook on life, but in order to do that, I got to play in this grim world. I got to dig in and dig deep and feel that. So I didn't even consider it grim. That's how grim my mentality is. I was kind of like, oh.
You're like, could have been grimmer, actually.
Yeah. We could have really turned it up a little bit. And the fact that you said that they do, I'm also a big Shakespeare fan. I may not be as big as you, but I was very excited. I was immediately when they were doing Lear, I was like, why? What thematically are they trying to say by having this character play Lear? And I still don't quite understand. I probably would have went with like Macbeth or something, or
Lear is a pretty grim play though too.
Yeah, well, I was thinking more like the supernatural elements of like Macbeth and all that. But
or what about the Tempest? Like as an allegory for those two characters, that'd been fun.
Yeah, I'm curious what other plays. By the way, did you see the Macbeth movie, Mike? Did you like it?
I have not.
You haven't seen it? Oh,
I have not. No.
My favorite Macbeth album is Rust in Peace. So good.
But we're still waiting for your answer, Neil.
So, am I going to watch it? Yeah. Well, yes, because it is a limited series, and I don't have to commit like to watching 6, 7. It's too much. But 10 episodes, I can probably pull this off. And I do want to know what the Station 11 is. I want to know what the comic book is. I want to know who the spaceman is. I'm kind of curious. So I might continue, even though I usually say, yeah, I'll keep watching, and I usually don't, but I might actually continue watching this one. So yeah.
You would.
Easy. Contrary to Michael, again, like this whole episode, I didn't really find this to be grim either. I was pleased with the tone. I think the deepest I'd go is call it maybe dour, or like a cloudy day. It's like cloudy, but it wasn't raining. It was like I was very happy with the tone. It does have its own. The show does have its own voice, does have its own tone, and it seemed it seemed optimistic, and it didn't focus too much on the death. It just focused more on, the relationship between the two main characters and the realization and the fact that we all knew his brother was going to die. We don't know how or what happens, but I'm like, okay, his brother's not going to make it. He's not a character. We don't need you, but I will not be watching the next episode. Neil will have to tell us what ends up happening.
You can just ask Angie. She knows.
Yeah, I won't watch it.
She's already watched it.
I wouldn't be horribly opposed to it. It almost feels like a show that you would enjoy just kind of putting on and letting it take you away to Fantasyland. It's almost like that, but it is a little too dark for happy Fantasyland kind of stuff. But look, if they're doing Shakespeare, spreading the joy, clearly there's some positivity in this show that I think is kind of like the main through line, but we'll see. But yeah, no, it's a no from me. But that's it. Neil, you're going to be our hero. You're the one that's going to tell us how it went.
I was totally off in my predicaments.
That's why you put yourself in a predicament. That's
well,
what
no, you said we'd like it, and both of us were. I gave a 6.3. Mike gave an 8.5.
Right, okay, all right, right. It was like you're not like, will you keep watching it? Yeah,
Yeah,
Right.
that's true.
Mm-hmm.
Good points.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But that's it. So everybody at home, if you'd like us to review a series, in the comments below, please tell us. Say WTF She-Ra, Princess of Power. WTF Powder Puff Girls. Is it Power Puff or Powder Puff? Power Puff Girls. WTF Lightning Wolves. Lightning Wolves. That's a new show that's coming out, or whatever. And we'll check it out maybe. And we'll credit you for giving us that suggestion. So what I'm trying to say, everybody, is this podcast was grim, dour, well, except for when we were talking about basketball.
This podcast actually went to a pretty deep philosophical place until we started talking about basketball.
Am I supposed to? I'm supposed.
Yes, you are. Yeah.
He's stretching on the floor like Larry Bird right now.
I was totally confused about what was going on.
You're in.
Lost. Except when we were talking about basketball.
You're in 33. Go. You're in.
Anyway, yeah. Ryan and I are very excited for the playoffs.
No. What was this podcast about?
Basketball.
Right. Perfect. I love it. This podcast is about basketball.
Unfortunately.
Right. Sorry.
So what we're trying to say here, everybody, is if one of the shows you could also recommend, WTF NBA on TNT,
How would we even find the first episode of that?
WWE Raw, WWE SmackDown, WTF Super Bowl. Those are all TV shows, kind of. Just remember, everybody, thanks for joining us.
Did they even televise
Super Bowl
appreciate one?
You. Yeah, probably. Was that 68?
They didn't
Packers,
have TV back then. Come on.
Packers won in 68 and 69, I believe. Look, point is, thanks for giving us a like, everybody. Please share this with your friends. Tell your friends to check it out. Hey, it's free to you and it hooks us up a ton. And then we're going to keep you laughing forever. And always remember, especially beyond everything else, what Michael Kenyon Rosenberg always likes to say.
I always like to say, don't forget to register to be an organ donor at donatelife.net/register. And then when you're done doing that, do it 2 or 3 times. Why not? I like to do it about 9 times a week. And then just go. Don't forget to watch the first of things. The end.